Do you struggle with communication problems in your marriage or in your parenting? Maybe you're the one who is able to communicate your points, but the other person, maybe it's your husband or your child, but they say yes, they understand you, yet nothing changes. Or on the flip side, you're trying to communicate your point. You try to say what you think, what you feel, how we should resolve the problem, but the other person is clearly not listening. They talk over you, they're defensive, they're argumentative, they're blaming you for the problems, and you're shocked thinking, how dare you do that? Can't you see how you're behaving? If you're in this relationship stalemate where both of you are trying to get their points across and there is clearly a communication problem because you're unable to hear each other. You have tried everything to resolve the problem, but nothing is working, then you're going to love today's podcast because I'm going to talk to you about really how to resolve this problem, understand what's going on, and how to get the other person to then understand you because we want to be understood. I'm going to show you how, inshallah. You're going to love today's podcast because when you can see that there is a solution, it gives you back the hope, the motivation, and the drive to get unstuck and actually start living the life you want to live. Let's get straight into this. Welcome to the Happy Home Podcast, where we help Muslim mothers create success and happiness in their personal, professional, and family life and raise their children as happy, pious, and productive Muslims. My name is Sayed-Hossen, and I am your host and the founder of the Happy Home Institute. Now, before we get started, 2 weeks from now, 21st, 22nd of September, inshallah, I'm running a live parenting training event. Now, this is going to be amazing. I am so excited. I can't wait to deliver it. I can't wait to show you how to resolve your parenting challenges. I'm going to be delving into the three main parenting challenges we have. Whatever your challenges are, they fit into one of these areas. I'm going to show you how to resolve it, inshallah. You're going to love it because when you can see that there is a solution, it gives you back the hope, the motivation, and the drive to get unstuck and actually start living the life you want to live instead of letting your life slip by you in problems that you don't know how to resolve. I love helping you solve your problems. So I'm really looking forward to helping you solve whatever your biggest parenting problem is at this event. So if you haven't booked your space yet, spaces are running out really fast. You don't want to be disappointed. 2 days live with me is going to be amazing because you're going to get to really understand what's going on and what you can do about it. It is going to be the most empowering event ever because you will now know how to solve your challenges. Where you walk away with a plan, you walk away calmer, you walk away more confident. Could you ask for any more in 2 days? Absolutely amazing is what I'm going to say to you. You're going to wish that you brought everyone you knew with you to the event. So do forward this to all of the mothers in your group, friendship groups, family groups, social circles, and let's together solve our challenges so we can live in a happy home, inshallah. Okay, so let's talk about this communication problem because it is a big one. The biggest problem really that couples bring to professional help, it's the communication problem. And yes, even where you're able to say what you want to say to the other person, it doesn't still make you feel understood. And I want you to understand that this is the clear difference. When we think that there's a communication problem, what we really want is not the communication. I can say what I want to say, but I really want to feel understood. That is the key. So when we look at the communication problem, there is a problem, and we'll delve into that. But I want you to understand the goal of all relationships. All relationships, what we want from the other person is to feel understood. There's no point in just communicating your point and the other not understanding you. That is more frustrating, right? You'd agree. What we want to do is be able to understand each other, get to a point where we're on the same page, we're working together. That is the goal of relationships. So that's what we want. But then we have this communication problem. And I want to show you what is happening here. And when you do it, the solution becomes so simple, so clear. When you understand it very simply, it's like a light bulb moment, where you're like, that's what it is. Okay, I get it. So let me show you what's happening. You're going to love today's podcast. Now, the first thing is when relationships break down, Okay, and when we're talking here, husband and wife or parent and child, the biggest pain in our lives are the conflicts that happen in our home, the distance that's happening in our home. We can have everything, but when we have a disconnected family, it just makes you feel like you have nothing. And yet, when your family's connected and happy in those moments where you're together, it makes you feel like the richest person in the world. So we all want a happy, connected family. And so what we want to do is get to a point where we feel like we can understand each other, right? However, when there is a communication problem and we're not understanding each other, that's the opposite from where we want to be. We need to understand how to get out of that, because we get into a stalemate situation where I'm speaking and you're not listening, or you're speaking and you're not letting me speak. So we're still not understanding each other. And everyone just wants to speak and everyone just wants to be understood. And at that place, from no one understands each other. No one even wants to now. I don't want to hear you because you're not listening to me. And so it's the complete polar opposite place of where we want to be. Why? Why does this happen? If I want to understand you and you want to understand me, how do we get to a place when I no longer want to understand you, you no longer want to understand me? It's really about me now. You need to understand me. Forget you, you need to understand me. How do we get to this place? Let's break it down. In a situation where you say we have a communication problem, I'm either unable to communicate what I want to say and be understood, or I'm communicating it, but they're not understanding me. They're not listening to what I have to say. They don't appreciate my opinion. I don't feel valued. I don't feel respected. I don't feel like my feelings matter. And when we're in that situation, what we're thinking is, if only you understood me, if only you listened, if only you heard me, if only you could understand what I was saying, then we would be able to resolve our problems. We'd be able to work together. And the problem we're having is you're not understanding me. You're clearly not understanding me. You don't care about what I have to say. You don't care about my perspective. You don't want to hear me. So when we're wanting to understand the communication problem, I want you to understand it from two typical scenarios. There's one where you're the communicator, and one where you are trying to communicate your point, but the other person doesn't allow you to speak or have a say. And in both those cases, I want you to understand what's happening so that we can understand how to solve this problem. We've got to solve it, right? We want to get to a point where we have happy relationships, and we've got to solve this problem. Now, in the case where you are the communicator, you're the one who speaks your mind. You say it as you see it. You don't hold back. You don't beat around the bush. You can't pretend. You can't live a fake life. So when you see a problem, you say it. You speak up. You speak your mind. You say it as you see it. And you know you're straight like that. You don't want to play it down because it needs to be heard. So it's so serious. It needs to be heard. It needs to be understood. If that's where you are in a relationship, if that's the person you are in the relationship, and then you see the other person and they are just looking at you blank face. Children often do that. They just look at you blank face, like, are you listening? Are you hearing me? I can't see anything. But then we see this even in husbands and women the same. They're not showing any expression. And you can't tell if what you're saying is actually going in. Or they might go so far as to say, okay, yeah, I understand. All right, I'll think about that. Okay, I'll give it some thought. And yet they don't come back with anything. They don't tell you what they're thinking. They don't tell you what's going to change. They don't give you a solution. It is so, so frustrating. And so the communication seems to be one way. And then you finally get to counseling or couple coaching, which is what we do here at the Happy Home Institute. And you finally get to a place where you can speak in a safe space, and the person says to you, well, we have a communication problem. And you're thinking, no, I don't. I communicate. It's you that has a communication problem. You don't speak. You don't say what's on your mind. You don't say what you're thinking. It's like trying to get blood out of a stone to get a word out of you. And you're thinking, no, I'm fine. I communicate what I think. There is no problem with me here. You're the one with the problem. Now, that is dynamic number one. I'm the one who's fine at communicating. You're the one with the problem. You're the one who's not communicating or showing me you understand what I'm saying, acknowledging that, yes, that is, you're on board, that's the solution, that's what we're going to do. That's dynamic number one. Dynamic number two is where you're trying to speak your point. You want to say how you feel, you do want to resolve it, but the other person doesn't let you speak. They're constantly talking over you, answering back, arguing with you, so defensive. Even if you say something, they throw it right back at you. And it's as if you're the problem and you're looking at them really shocked. It dumbfounds you that how could it be that there I am trying to say to you what I think and what I think you need to change and what you need to do. And then you throw it right back at me and you raise things from the past. You raise things that are not relevant. And you're throwing all these things at me as if I'm the one that has the problem right here and right now. You're making it me. And that is dynamic number two, where you try to speak, but you don't even get a chance to speak. And for you, we now have a communication problem because I can't communicate and I can't be understood. And in fact, you feel quite disrespected, especially if it's your children, your teenagers answering back, and you just feel really unappreciated, undervalued, and quite hurt. Because if you meant anything in that relationship, that person, they take time to understand you, right? So that's how dynamic two goes. I'm breaking it down like this, not to take away from the emotions of it. Of course, I understand it's really painful. Both sides are really painful because you just want to get to a solution. But I want to help you understand it from the place of this is what's happening here and this is what's happening there. Now, dynamic two is where, you're trying to communicate, the other person doesn't listen. And so when you're asked about the relationship, you think, well, they don't let me speak. Yeah, we have a communication problem because they don't let me speak. They won't listen to me. They won't hear me. They won't acknowledge what I'm saying. They don't value my opinion. Now, hear how that relationship looks as well. To you, it looks like they are the problem. Even in dynamic one, they were the problem because they were not communicating. Dynamic two, they are still the problem because they are not allowing you to communicate. Does that make sense? That in both dynamics, it looks like to you, the other person is the problem. Does that resonate? Whatever this dynamic you have, it always looks like the other person is the problem. Now, here is the bit that is going to make sense for you, completely. When I say to you, what now happens? In relationships, we mirror each other. The believers are like mirrors to one another. We mirror each other. We end up behaving, thinking like the other person. That's why, we're advised to choose our friends carefully in our deen. Now, imagine I'm in this relationship with you and I'm thinking you are the problem. And then you're in this relationship with me and you're thinking you're mirroring me now, or vice versa. We're mirroring each other. And you're thinking, no, Amina, you are the problem. And then this is what's happening. You're the problem. Now you're the problem. You're the problem. Now you're the problem. And when blame is put into a relationship, the other person naturally gets defensive or they shut down. So it's that fight or flight reaction. Like you're either going to fight back and say, no, you're to blame. It is you. You're at fault. You're at fault. You're at fault. Look what you've done. Look what you've done. And they're pulling out all the stops. Or you shut down. You shut down. There's no point. You just give up. You just withdraw. You walk away. You avoid. You just give up. And so you stop communicating. That is what blame does. If we're both blaming each other, one is going to shut down and one's going to fight back. At time, you're both going to fight it back, and at time, you're both going to shut down. But that is what happens in those relationships because blame has come in between. Not understanding and connection, but blame. So when blame comes in between a relationship, it will disconnect your relationship. You will fight and you will avoid each other. You will get defensive and you'll blame each other. And you'll both be doing that. And that's why it feels like we have a communication problem. Because you're not understanding that you're the problem. No, you're not understanding you're the problem. No, you're not understanding. You see how it goes? And that is what is happening. So blame is the thing that is causing the problem. We think it's communication, but what we're really communicating is you're the problem and you need to understand that. That there is the communication problem. It's not that I can't be heard and understood. It's that I don't want to understand that I'm the problem. I don't want to understand that you're blaming me for these problems. I don't want to accept that. Nobody does. So everybody pushes back and shuts down. So we think we have a communication problem, and the truth is we have a blame problem. If I'm pointing the finger at you, you're going to point the finger at me. If I point the finger at you, you're going to point the finger at me. And it just keeps going. And then it makes us just pull away. And what we need to do instead is actually take out the blame. Because look, what happens if you have an argument with someone and then you make up? At that point, you're at the point where you want to hear what they have to say. You want to find a solution. You want to work together because, fighting, arguing, saying terrible things to each other, all of that pain of the emotions of the conflict, you know you don't want to carry on like that. You want to find an understanding. So you come together now, no longer really blaming the other, but just explaining how you feel. So you can communicate how you feel and be understood so long as blame is not part of it. Now, how do you do that? How do you do that? How do you communicate that you're the problem without blaming? Is the question that my clients ask. And the steps that I take them through is to be able to change the way they look at the problem. I can look at the problem in a completely different way, where we're working together to solve it instead of blaming the other for causing it. Because it doesn't matter who caused it. What matters is that we need to find a solution to move forward from it. That's what matters. And if we can get to that point where we take out the blame from the relationship and we start changing the way we look at each other, the way we look at the problems, where we want to get to in that relationship, then the entire relationship changes. That is a process I'll be talking about more at the upcoming parenting event. It's amazing. You're going to love it. You would have probably never heard anything like this in the typical personal development relationship world. It is groundbreaking stuff, that you need to know, you need to have in your lives. You need to be able to understand and bring to your family so that you can finally have your happy home. It really, really is essential. So you need to come to the event. You need to let everyone else know about it. It's a women's only event. Invite all of the mothers you know. Let's make a change in the world. Let us solve the real problem, which is not that we're communicating that you are the problem, but let us together find solutions and bring our families on the same page. That's what we need to do. I'm so excited, as you can tell. I am probably speaking quite fast, but I really, really am excited to share this with you because when you start understanding the problem and how simple it is to resolve, your happy home is just around the corner. And I am just so excited to help you get there, inshallah. So click on the link below and above. Forward, let everyone know about it. Let's do this. Let's meet. Let's solve this problem, but let's stop blaming each other. Let's just take out the blame from the relationship, because if I blame you, you will blame me. If I blame you, you will blame me. And then, of course, who wants to communicate when there's blame being thrown back and forth? No one wants to do that. We want to take the blame out of the relationship. We want to bring the love and mercy back in. And that's what we're going to do at the event, inshallah. I'll see you there. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum.